Welcome back to another episode of the Satisfactory Alternate Recipe Guide. In the last episode, we covered stators, motors, and turbo motors. Today, we are going to cover steel ingots. We're going to cover steel beams, steel pipes, and encased industrial beams. This one's a fairly large episode, because look how far we got to go down to the next orange wall over there. That's pretty far away. I do have everything set up for all the episodes, so we're ready to go. I just need to record them all, so here we go. Let's start with steel ingot. This is the basic steel ingot recipe. This is the first one you're going to get. It is 45 iron ore per minute and 45 coal per minute to give you 45 steel ingots per minute. Nothing wrong with this recipe, but we're going to set a input since they all require ingot iron of some sort. We're going to set the iron ore input to 120 per minute. So if that's the case, we need two of these at 100% clock speed, and the last one is 66.667, and we'll get 120 steel ingots per minute, which is exactly what is shown here. This is a good recipe. It's nothing to scoff at, but there is better. So let's move on to the next one here, and that is the coke steel ingot recipe. That is 75 iron ore per minute and 75 petroleum coke per minute to give you 100 steel ingots per minute. To get 120, the second one needs to be set at 60%. So we're going to produce 160 steel ingots per minute. This one's pretty good, especially if you got petroleum coke on hand. You could throw this to steel and you wouldn't even bat an eye. This would be pretty cool. I wouldn't mind using this recipe if I ever had petroleum coke that I needed to get rid of, but that doesn't happen very often unless I intentionally make petroleum coke. It's not often that I would use this recipe, but you do get some extra steel out of this for the same amount of iron that you put in. Let's move on to the next recipe here. This one is actually kind of crazy. So this is the compacted steel ingot, and the regular recipe is 5 iron ore and 2.5 compacted coal to give you 10 steel ingots per minute. If I were to do 120 iron ore input, I'd have had to set up 24 foundries, and I did not want to do that, so I double overclocked everything, and I believe I set up 12 of these. So I should get 240 steel ingots. So that's 10 iron ore and 5 compacted coal to give you 20 steel ingots. I should get 240 steel ingots per minute. And it just took compacted coal, which is coal and sulfur. This one's a recipe I've never tried before, but I think this is one that I want to try next time in one of my playthroughs. This one intrigues me the most. If you're looking for sheer numbers of steel, this is the recipe to go for. If you want as many steel ingots as you can with as few iron ore as possible, go for this one, because this one's insane. Get 240 steel ingots out of 120 iron ore. You double your iron input. It's crazy. It does require a lot of foundry placement because it's such a low number, but if you think that's worth it, by all means. The only problem you might have is power might be an issue placing this many foundries down, especially at this point in the game. If you're only running off of coal power, this might be a problem, but if you're running off of, let's say, turbo fuel power, you'll have no issues running this at all. Then the last steel ingot recipe is one of my favorites, and that is the solid steel ingot recipe. So that is 40 iron ingots, so it's not iron ore, it's iron ingots, and 40 coal give you 60 steel ingots per minute. So you get a 1.5 times increase in your steel ingots from your iron input, which is pretty nice. I do like that. And you can use one of the iron ingot recipes that we discussed in literally the first episode of this series, so go watch that one if you haven't already. This one's pretty solid. Solid steel ingot. It's a pretty good recipe. Like, I don't have any complaints with this one, so Out of these 4 for just steel ingots, I don't have any complaints with any of them, but I will say the worst one is probably the original recipe, just because you get the fewest amount out of it. Like, this is your lowest output, but it's still a fine recipe. You're not losing iron from this. You're not having any issues with that. It's just every other alternate gives you more. It's just more and more and more. Like, how much steel do you want? That's going to determine what you're going to make. One of my favorites is solid steel ingots, because you do utilize less resources to get more. One of them that I definitely want to try is this compacted steel ingot. Yes, it includes a little bit of sulfur, but that's not that big of a deal. And then the petroleum coke steel ingot. That doesn't seem like a bad recipe either. I don't hate it. So, really, your worst recipe is your basic recipe. And that's fine. None of these will lead you astray. Use whichever one you're comfortable with. If you don't want to use compacted coal or petroleum coke, I would highly recommend using solid steel ingots over the original recipe. So, there you go. That's your guide there. So let's move on to the next set of recipes, and that is steel beams. This first one here is just steel beam. So it takes 60 steel ingots to make 15 steel beams. So let's say we have an input of 120 steel ingots. We would need 2 of these set up at 100% clock speed, and will produce 30 steel beams per minute, which is exactly what you see. This kind of sucks, because it's a 4-to-1 ratio. 4 steel ingots to 1 steel beam. That's horrible. I don't like that. You don't get a whole lot of steel beams, and this is used for Mark III belts, so you definitely need to produce a bunch of steel beams. It's also used for a lot of other recipes, so figuring out how to make a good set of steel beams, like just a solid number of steel beams per minute, is really useful in this game. And I don't think the original recipe is going to do it for you. But I also don't think this recipe is the correct one either. This is the aluminum beam. And this one takes 22.5 aluminum ingot to produce 22.5 steel beams per minute. So this is better. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. I do like that. But now you're dealing with the headache of aluminum ingots, and this is really far into the game. Maybe this would be good late game, but by that point you probably don't need it. It's too late. So let's just say we have 120 aluminum ingots per minute as your input. You need 4 of these set at 100%, and the last one set at 133.33%, and you're gonna produce 120 steel beams per minute. It's not bad. I'm not gonna lie, it's not bad. It's just, it comes late. It's tier 7. There's only 2 more tiers after the game. Unless you want to redo a bunch of factories, this may not be the recipe for you. But what may be the recipe for you is the molded beam. So this is just taking steel ingots, throwing a little bit of concrete with it, and you're producing a lot more steel beams per minute. So if you bring in 120 steel ingots per minute and you throw in a bunch of concrete, which concrete is so easy to make, go watch my concrete alternate recipe video. I talk about all the alternate recipes there, and there's a clear winner for that one too. This one might be the clear winner because you're producing 45 steel beams, which is 15 more than the regular steel beam recipe. So it's not that much more. It's what, a 1.5 times increase? But still, any extra steel beams goes a long ways. And you can do this one right away once you get steel beams. So if I were you, you can use the basic recipe. There's nothing wrong with it. You can use it. But if I were you, I would take the time and invest in getting the molded beams, just to get that little extra steel beams per minute. And if you're redoing factories late in the game, the aluminum beam might be worth it if you need a bunch of steel beams. Some recipes require steel beams. But the thing is a lot of the recipes that require steel beams have an alternate that allows you to use steel pipes. So this one's not that important. The steel beams isn't that important, but the clear winner is the molded beam. Concrete's easy. So, again, it's up to you. I'm gonna pick molded beam next time. So let's move on to the steel pipe. Now this one's the most interesting because there's an alternate that is good and bad at the same time, depending on your situation. So let's talk about the steel pipe here. So the standard recipe is 30 steel ingots to give you 20 steel pipes. If we have 120 steel ingots coming in, you're going to need 4 of these to make 80 steel pipes per minute. And that's exactly what we're outputting. Really simple, really easy. This one's not a bad ratio. I don't have a problem using this recipe at all. Now there is what you all probably know of, the iron pipe recipe. So the iron pipe recipe actually just eliminates the need for steel entirely. Now that could be good. You could save all of your steel for steel beams and just make iron pipes. The problem with this is you require a lot more iron to make steel pipes. So it's a catch-22. If you don't have a lot of iron, you're going to want to use a steel recipe. But if you have an abundance of iron, which, let's face it, every Satisfactory world has an abundance of iron, you just have to go find it. The iron pipe is one of the best recipes in the game because it allows you to circumvent making steel. And we'll talk about this shortly in a little bit. I'll show you why this is important. This is one of the best recipes in the game if you have the resources nearby. Even if you don't have the resources nearby and you can belt it in or truck it in or train it in or whatever, this is one of the best recipes in the game. But again, there's nothing wrong with using the original steel pipe recipe. But there's 2 recipes better than this. The iron pipe recipe is better, and so is the molded steel pipe. It's 50 steel ingots and 30 concrete to give you 50 steel pipes. So you set up 2 of these at 100% and the last one at 40%, and you're going to get 120 steel pipes per minute. You're going to get a ton of steel pipes per minute just by throwing in a little bit of concrete with your steel. This is a better recipe than the standard recipe because you get a 1.5 times increase. This is 80. That's 120, 1.5 times better. So if you need, and steel pipes are used in a lot of recipes, and they're used in a lot of alternate recipes too. And I'll show you that when we get over to the Encased Industrial Beams. So if I were to rank these, I will use molded steel pipes and iron pipes before I use steel pipes. And the only reason I'll use steel pipes is if I'm setting it up for the first time and I don't have alternate recipes yet. I'm going to use these 2. If I have every alternate recipe available to me, I'm going to use this one or this one before I use this one. But there's nothing wrong with any of them. It's just these 2 are clearly better. Molded steel pipes and iron pipes are clearly better than steel pipes. But there's nothing wrong with steel pipes. You can't go wrong with that. Alright. Let's talk about the final portion of the steel episode. And that is gonna be Encased Industrial Beams. So the standard recipe for Encased Industrial Beams is 18 steel beams per minute and 36 concrete per minute to give you 6 Encased Industrial Beams per minute. We're gonna set our steel input to 60. So our steel beam input will be 60 and our other alternate recipe will be set at 60 for the steel option. So that's going to be 2 of these at 100% and the last one at 133.33%. And we'll produce 20 encased industrial beams per minute. But the problem is, how are you getting 60 steel beams? Like, we've discussed this. Steel beams can be a pain in the butt to get, because you're getting 60 steel ingots to make 15. If you want 60 steel beams, you need 240 steel ingots per minute just to produce 60 steel beams. Here, that's a lot. That's a lot of steel. And if you're using that all for encased industrial beams, like, yeah, it's worth it, because this is Mark IV belts right here. You want to produce these. These are very important, and they're used in a lot of recipes. They're used in the heavy modular frame recipe that we talked about a couple episodes ago. Like, encased industrial beams are used in recipes, and they're used in Mark IV belts. These are important to make. So you want to pick the one that's going to get you a good quantity without having to use a ton of steel. This isn't a bad recipe, but there is the encased industrial pipes, which is 24 steel pipes and 20 concrete to give you 4 encased industrial beams. So if we bring in 60 steel pipes, it's just 3 of these. There's 2 of these set at 100% and the last one set at 50%. And we're going to produce 10 encased industrial beams per minute. But as I've shown you, steel pipes are a lot easier to get. I mean, you're getting 120 steel pipes from 120 steel ingots. So you're just utilizing 60 steel pipes here. You can double this, and you'll get 20. Like, for half the steel ingots. That's why this recipe is clearly better. But you could bypass the entire steel production chain to make encased industrial beams by utilizing the iron pipe recipe. You can bypass steel entirely to make encased industrial pipes by using iron pipes. So this would just be iron and concrete. And that is why the encased industrial pipe is clearly the better choice. Even though you get less encased industrial beams per machine, it is clearly the better choice. I would utilize the encased industrial pipe over the encased industrial beam any day, because I have the option of not using steel ingots. So that's the steel episode. Let me know what your favorite recipes are for any of this. Steel ingots, steel beams, steel pipes, encased industrial beams. What's your favorite recipes for all of them? Let me know in the comments. Next episode, we're going to start tackling plastic and rubber. This will be fun. So, thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned. Subscribe. Make sure you stay tuned with the series, because this is going to be quite a few episodes still. I mean, we got nuclear we're going to talk about in the future. So, if you're interested in that, make sure you subscribe. Alright, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.